Hi, I'm Leo, 25, and the last time I saw my parents, I was standing outside their house holding a graduation photo and a check for exactly $0, because they'd just given my brother $70,000 to follow his dreams, and told me to take extra shifts if I wanted help with tuition. This story doesn't start in a courtroom or some Reddit-worthy shouting match. It starts with a dining room, an envelope, and a silence so loud it felt like a fire alarm. 3 months ago, my parents called a family dinner. That alone should have been a red flag. There are only 2 reasons we get summoned like that: someone's dead, or someone's getting money. Nobody was dead. So I showed up in my usual post-work gear, still wearing my barista apron and smelling like espresso in shame. My older brother Jordan showed up freshly shaved and suspiciously overdressed for chicken parm. He always dressed up when he was about to be handed something he didn't earn. Dinner was weirdly pleasant at first. My mom even had real napkins out, not the folded paper towels we usually grabbed off the counter. My dad cracked a beer, his special occasion beer, and asked Jordan how his creative journey was going. Jordan lit up. He started talking about this immersive VR wellness experience he was designing. He called it the yoga of the future. I called it what it was: unemployed and vaping in a hoodie while streaming TED Talks. And then it happened. My mom reached under the table and pulled out an envelope. "It's not much," she said, placing it in front of Jordan. "But we want to support you." Jordan opened it. He blinked. $70,000? He said, like he was surprised, like the number had printed itself by accident. I stared at it. $70,000. More than I'd made in 2 years of working full-time while juggling community college. They didn't look at me. I tried to smile. Tried to be cool. "That's awesome," I said. "Actually, I was wondering if you guys could maybe help me cover this semester's tuition. I'm $4,200 short." My mom's fork paused midair. My dad cleared his throat. "Well, Leo," he said, "you've got a job. Maybe it's time to take on some extra shifts. That's how we learned responsibility. Not handouts." I looked at the envelope again. The one still sitting in front of my brother, who hadn't worked a single job since high school. Who once got a concussion trying to open a coconut with a hammer indoors. "So," I said slowly, $70,000 isn't a handout. But $4,200 is? Jordan chuckled nervously. "It's different," he said. "My thing has potential." That's when I knew. This wasn't about money. This was about who they believed in, who got to dream, and who had to serve lattes to pay for community college, all smiling through lectures about grit and bootstraps. I left dinner early. Said I had a shift? I didn't. I just sat in my car, staring at the dashboard until my phone buzzed with a Venmo notification. "Thanks for dinner tonight, Leo. Red Heart Mom." They charged me for the chicken parm. That night I dropped out. I didn't tell them. I just stopped going. Instead, I picked up 4 extra shifts and quietly applied for something I never thought I'd have the guts to try, a tech bootcamp. 6 weeks later, I got accepted, with a partial scholarship. The rest? I paid for myself. By January, I was coding 10 hours a day. By February, I was getting interviews. By March, I had an offer. But I didn't tell anyone yet. Not even my best friend Max, who kept begging me to move out of my parents' garage and into his couch. I had a different plan. Because the next time I saw them, I was going to walk in with something better than an ask. I was going to walk in with an offer they couldn't accept. 1 month later, I stood outside my parents' house again, this time with a signed offer letter in one pocket and a business card in the other. I wasn't sure which one they'd hate more. My new job? Front-end engineer. Starting salary? $95,000. The company? A fintech startup Jordan had once mocked on Instagram for being soulless. The irony tasted better than the steak I'd treated myself to the night before. I rang the doorbell. My mom answered in an apron, eyes widening like I was a ghost. "Leo?" She blinked. "We didn't know you were coming. Didn't want to spoil the surprise." I said, stepping inside. The smell of lasagna and misplaced hierarchy filled the air. My dad was in the living room watching cable news on mute. Jordan was at the kitchen table with a MacBook, surrounded by crystals and a bottle labeled adaptogenic brain fuel. I tried not to laugh. What's the occasion? My dad asked, adjusting his reading glasses. I pulled the envelope from my jacket, the same size and color as the one they'd given Jordan. Thought I'd return the favor, I said. I handed it to them. My mom looked suspicious. My dad opened it. He stared at the offer letter. Blinked once. Twice. You got a job? He said. Yep, I said. Full-time. Benefits. Signing bonus. Full-stack training. Jordan snorted. What, like IT support or something? Front-end development, I replied. Fintech. UI/UX. You know, the thing you said was soul death in a hoodie. My dad cleared his throat. That's impressive. My mom didn't say anything. She just stared at the number at the bottom of the page. I'm moving out next week, I added. Found a studio. It's small, but it's mine. Jordan swirled his adaptogen and tried to pivot. That's great, man. Seriously. We should collab sometime. You could code the back end of my wellness app. I smiled. Yeah, I'm good. Silence fell. Then my dad said the thing I knew was coming, the thing that would flip the whole vibe on its back. Why didn't you ask us for help? I laughed. Short. Quiet. Dangerous. You mean like the $4,200 for tuition? I asked. Or the emergency dental bill? Or the car repair when my tire exploded on the way to your anniversary dinner? He flinched. My mom's eyes dropped to the floor. You told me to take extra shifts, I said. So I did. And then I took a few more. They tried to speak. I held up the business card. I'm also starting freelance work on the side, I added. If you ever need a website, here's my rate. Friends and family discount not included. Jordan looked like he was choking on smugness. What's your rate? He asked. $110 an hour, I said flatly. He blinked. That's robbery. No, I said. That's value. There was another beat of silence. The kind where everything hangs in the air, even the things no one says. Then I nodded, turned, and walked out. I didn't hug anyone. I didn't wait for approval. I just left. I was halfway down the driveway when Jordan jogged after me. Hey, he said. Seriously, congrats, man. Thanks, I said, unlocking my car. He paused, hands in his pockets. So how did you actually do it? I turned to face him. I stopped waiting for them to believe in me, I said. And I started acting like I did. He didn't respond. I got in the car. Pulled away. Drove straight to Max's apartment, and crashed on his floor with takeout and a grin. That night, I slept better than I had in years. The next morning, my parents texted me. Dad, proud of you, son. Let us know if you need help moving. Mom, we didn't realize. Sorry. You've grown so much. I stared at the messages. Didn't reply. Not yet. I had more growing to do. And this time, I was doing it without permission. The job started on a Monday. By Wednesday, I knew two things for sure. The company had cold brew on tap and I was going to die overdosed and caffeinated. I was good at this. Actually good. My team was small, 6 engineers, 1 project manager, and a designer named Yui who wore noise-canceling headphones like they were a personality trait. My onboarding buddy Simon was the kind of person who spoke in acronyms and snack metaphors. Your first feature's a slider. Front-end only. UX team wants it buttery. Buttery? I asked. Yeah. Smooth, intuitive, and better than whatever Apple did. It was chaos, but it was my chaos. At lunch, I'd sit quietly in the break room, half listening to conversations about frameworks and office dogs. Then I'd go back to my desk, build my little corner of the internet, And think about how 2 months ago I was being lectured about tipping extra at the coffee shop I worked in. Now I was salaried. Badged. Eating catered sushi while Slack notifying a product manager about API delays. And then came the email. Subject line, FWD, introducing the Jordan app. It was from a Gmail. Sent to me. And also, horrifyingly, CC'd to 5 of my coworkers and 2 of their bosses. Hi Leo. Super pumped to share this early build with your team at redacted startup name. I've always wanted to combine mental wellness with gamification, and I think your product would be the perfect home for a collab. Let me know if you want to talk licensing, co-branding, or sweat equity. Warmly, Jordan, founder, CEO, vision steward. The Jordan app, mood. Mapped. Attached was a Google Doc with a logo he had clearly drawn in Canva and a 5-slide pitch deck that included words like empathic capitalism and NFT breath tracking. I stared at it. Then I stared at the CC list. He'd emailed my new job. On day 9. With a pitch. For a psychic breath app. Called the Jordan app. I didn't even know what part of that sentence made me want to scream the most. Later that day, my manager pulled me aside. Hey, he said, holding back a grin. So your brother? I nodded. Good deck. Needs polish. But that logo. He actually snorted. Is the chakra wheel supposed to be crying? I think it's sweating, I said flatly. He laughed. No worries, just tell him we're not currently investing in that. I went home that night and didn't text Jordan. Instead, I started building something else. Not a website. Not an app. Something I hadn't built in years. A boundary. A real one. No more. Maybe. No more passive-aggressive dinners where I smiled through comparisons and leftovers. No more requests for favors or help with pitches I never believed in. I didn't block him. But I stopped replying. When my mom called 3 days later and asked if I'd helped Jordan set up a landing page, I said the word that nearly gave me a nosebleed. No. She paused. But you're so good at that stuff. I am, I said. And he isn't paying me. There was silence. Then she said, well, that's not very supportive. And I said, neither was watching me bust my ass for 4 years while you handed him $70,000 and told me to take more shifts. Click. She didn't call back for 2 weeks. But Max made lasagna. My coworkers started asking me to lead sprints. And I stopped waking up with that tightness in my chest that used to feel like ambition but was actually just grief. Grief for all the versions of me that waited for someone else to believe I was worth investing in. 2 weeks passed. 2 whole weeks without a single call, text, guilt trip, Venmo request, or, can you just take a quick look at this website mock-up? It's not even coded yet, just like vibes. Silence. It should have felt peaceful. Like a lake. Still. Restorative. Instead, it felt like the moment right before thunder hits. Max and I were on his balcony one night, him vaping something that claimed to be mango, me nursing a $5 whiskey like it was aged in gold, and I finally admitted it. I thought they'd fight harder. He took a drag. They will. How do you know? Because people don't like losing mirrors. I blinked. What? You were their mirror, he said. You made them feel good about their choices. You worked hard, didn't complain. You stayed grateful while they handed your brother the moon and asked you to sweep around it. That one hurt. Because it was true. So what now? I asked. Just rebuild myself? He grinned. Nah, dude. You're not rebuilding. You're releasing the patch update. Version 2.0, now with boundaries and slightly better hair. I did not have better hair. But I did update my LinkedIn. And 3 days later, I got a message from someone unexpected. Jordan. Hey man. Can we talk? No emojis. No links. Just that. I stared at the message for a long time. I didn't answer. That weekend, my parents invited me to a barbecue. The first time they'd reached out directly since the silence. The invite. Just burgers and family, Leo. We'd love to see you. Jordan's doing a live demo of his app for some of the neighbors. Translation: We miss you. But also, please help make Jordan look legitimate. Max begged me not to go. My coworkers begged me to go and take notes. I went. Because some part of me needed to see it. Needed to see if anything had changed. Spoiler, it hadn't. I showed up in jeans and a nice shirt. The grill smelled like nostalgia. The backyard was full of folding chairs and boomers trying to figure out airdrop. My mom hugged me like we hadn't just ghosted each other for 14 days and 3 hours. Leo, she beamed. You look so grown. I am, I said. Turns out that happens when you pay rent without help. That one landed like a dart. My dad cleared his throat. You want a burger? I want to know why you called me, I said. Really? He shifted. Jordan's been working hard. He's showing the app in 10 minutes. Thought you might have some thoughts. Did he ask for that? No. But we figured. Then don't. I turned and walked inside, just to breathe. That's when I saw it. Jordan's app. He'd set up a little table in the corner of the living room with business cards, a QR code, and a ring light. On screen was a beta version of the Jordan app, a pastel mess of mood rings, buzzwords, and AI-generated affirmations like, "You are the quantum of your own leap. Exhale your trauma." I almost spit out my water. Jordan came in behind me. You came, he said, smiling. Yep. He looked tired. Not stoned. Not smug. Just genuinely tired. You really doing okay? I asked. He paused. No, he said. But I'm trying to make it look like I am. That's when I realized something. He wasn't the villain. He was just a favorite who had never been told no. And now he was terrified the world might. I nodded. Then I said, Your app makes no sense. But your landing page isn't the worst. He laughed. You still build? Every day. You'd kill on something like this. If it wasn't this. I smiled. Exactly. We didn't hug. We didn't fix anything. But when I left, he slipped a can of cold brew into my bag and said, You've always worked harder than me. I just didn't want to believe it. That night, my mom texted. You two seemed good together today. Maybe things can go back to normal. I stared at that word, normal. And then I replied, There's no back. Just forward. You can walk with me, or not. She didn't reply. But I did sleep fine that night. First time in months. 2 days later, I got an email that threw everything sideways. Subject: Panelist request, Tech Talk at Campus 2025. Apparently, one of my old community college instructors had seen my updated LinkedIn, saw that I was now working at a rising fintech startup, and wanted to invite me back, as a guest speaker, to talk about non-traditional tech paths and resilience. I read it 3 times. I hadn't told her I'd dropped out. I hadn't told her I cried the night I walked away from that classroom, furious and humiliated, because my family chose my brother's vision over my survival. And now she wanted me to inspire students? I said yes before I could talk myself out of it. 2 weeks later, I stood behind a podium in the same lecture hall I used to sneak snacks into, staring out at 100 undergrads who looked exactly like I had back then, tired, curious, broke, and trying. I opened with this. Hi. I'm Leo. I used to pour lattes to pay for your parking permits. Now I design systems that handle $1. 3 million in daily transaction volume. And I didn't get here through a university, or an inheritance, or some polished startup origin story. I got here because I ran out of ways to be ignored. The room got quiet. And then I told them everything. The shifts. The tuition ask. The $70,000 check I didn't get. The backyard barbecue with the breathwork ring light. The silence that followed me like a second skin. And how, one day, I stopped waiting for someone to say I was allowed to try. I ended with this. You don't need everyone to believe in you. You just need one person. It helps if that person is you. The applause was awkward but real. Afterward, a girl with a buzz cut came up and said, Your story sounds like mine, but with more coding and fewer little brothers. I laughed. Until I checked my phone. 3 missed calls from my mom. 1 text from my dad. He told us today he's going back to school. First time he's ever wanted to finish something. No name, no context. But I knew who he was. And I knew what it meant. Later that night, I got a DM from Jordan. Hey. I signed up for that boot camp you went to. Just wanted you to know. I stared at it. Not because I was shocked, but because for once, it didn't feel like a performance. It felt like a step. So I replied. Good. Hope you stick with it. That's it. No emojis. No praise. Just a breadcrumb. A few days later, I went home. Not to ask for anything. Not to prove anything. Just to pick up the rest of my books from the garage I used to sleep in. When I walked into the kitchen, there was a check on the counter. Folded. No note. I didn't touch it. Didn't even open it. Because I didn't need it anymore. That money? It was never about the number. It was about what they were willing to give when they thought someone was worth betting on. And I'd already made my own bet. It was paying off. 3 months later, I was sitting on the balcony of my new place, smaller than my parents' garage but infinitely more mine, when the doorbell rang. It was Jordan. Hair unwashed, hoodie wrinkled, but something was different. His shoulders weren't slouched. His voice wasn't slippery. He held up a Tupperware of what looked like homemade curry. I made too much, he said. Want some? I blinked. You cooked? He smirked. There's a YouTube channel for guys like me. Step 1 was don't try to saute anything stoned. We sat on milk crates and ate like we used to, him with hot sauce, me trying not to die. Then he pulled out a beat-up laptop and opened a terminal. I built my first working prototype, he said, tapping nervously. Want to see? I expected another mood ring disaster. What I saw was not awful. It was a minimal site. Clean, mobile-friendly. It asked users a few questions about their energy and focus levels, and then used that data to suggest a daily reflection prompt. No chakra wheels. No NFTs. No pseudo-spiritual nonsense. Just thoughtful design. Did you copy my CSS? I asked. He grinned. Yup. And I asked your old bootcamp mentor for code review. She roasts me weekly. I like her. I raised an eyebrow. He looked down. I know I screwed things up, Leo. All of it. You were carrying this family for years and I just never saw it. Or didn't want to. I was so busy chasing approval I didn't notice you were surviving without it. There was no music swelling in the background. No hug. Just silence. And then he said something that I didn't know I needed to hear. I used to think you were bitter. Turns out, you were just exhausted. That's when I forgave him. Not officially, not with a speech. Just quietly, the way you let an old weight go when you realize you don't need it anymore. The next week, I gave a talk at a local conference. Afterward, my mom came up. She had her hands clasped like she was waiting to be invited. You were amazing, she said. We didn't know. I nodded. That was it. Just a nod. She reached into her purse and handed me something folded. It was the same check. The $70,000. But this time it had a note. If you don't want it, maybe invest it in someone like you. I didn't cash it. Instead, I opened a new savings account and called it Next Leo Fund. It's up to $72,315 now, because I've added my own deposits. Every month, I put a little in. Not to spite them. Not to gloat. But because somewhere out there, another kid is working 3 shifts and getting told to try harder while their sibling gets a studio and applause. And when they're ready, I'll be ready too. Because that's the thing no one tells you about walking away from people who don't believe in you. You don't disappear. You become visible to the people who do.